My Neighbors! Now playing on Sega Genesis and Super NES, a 55-level feeding frenzy of fine-cut creature features, fending off bee-moving maniacs with your weed whackers, exploding soda pop, and oozy squirt gun. Save the neighbors! Or they're dead meat. Zombies Ate My Neighbors! From Konami.
Published by Konami and developed by LucasArts in 1993, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a run-and-gun style video game where the player chooses between two different characters. There's Zeke and Julie. Both of them can be played at the same time in two-player cooperative mode. The player navigates suburban neighborhoods and shopping malls, pyramids, haunted castles, and a bunch of other environments. And on those environments, they're fighting a variety of monsters, including vampires and werewolves, huge babies, spiders, dolls, aliens, chainsaw maniacs, and a bunch of others. The game features 48 stages, which includes 7 optional bonus levels. In the various levels, the player is tasked with rescuing numerous types of neighbors, including barbecuing chefs, teachers, babies, tourists, soldiers, cheerleaders, and more. Once all of the neighbors on a level have been saved by the players touching them, a door opens that will take the player to the next stage. If a neighbor is touched by an enemy, it kills them, preventing them from being saved. In some levels, daytime gradually turns to night, turning some neighbors into werewolves that cannot be saved. At least one neighbor must be saved from each level to progress to the end. The game is lost if the player loses all of their lives or if all the neighbors are killed. There are various items that the players can pick up along the way. These include keys that can open up doors, health packs that restore health, and potions with various effects such as increasing speed or temporarily transforming the player into a monster. Players can also collect various types of weapons, such as an Uzi water gun, bazookas, weed whackers, silverware, flamethrowers, and more, each with their own effectiveness against certain types of enemies. The game was actually developed on the Super Nintendo before porting to the Sega Genesis as well, about halfway through. Music was composed by Joseph McDermott, who also worked on Q*bert 3 for the Super Nintendo. The engine created for Zombies Ate My Neighbors would later be used in the games Metal Warriors, Big Sky Trooper, and the sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Ghoul Patrol, which we'll talk about later. The developers also wanted to include a battery save, but was unable to as they could not afford it on the budget. The monsters in the game are based on classic horror films from the 50s and 60s and more modern films like Friday the 13th and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Weapon effectiveness is also based on these depictions, such as werewolves dying in one hit if attacked with silverware, and vampires dying a lot faster if attacked with the crucifix. In the Super Nintendo version of the game, there is also a flamethrower, which is not in the Genesis version. Zombies Ate My Neighbors was subject to some censorship. The game was released before the ESRB existed, and before then Nintendo did not want violence in their video games. Nintendo of America ordered all depictions of blood and gore to be removed, or changed to purple ooze. Censorship committees in several European nations like the United Kingdom, Ireland, Italy, Norway, and Germany censored even more by having the name changed to just zombies, and replaced the chainsaw-wielding enemies with lumberjacks wielding axes. In 1994, a sequel entitled Ghoul Patrol was released, but not as well received as its predecessor. Originally, Ghoul Patrol was not intended to be released as a sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but it was reworked as such to increase sales.
They say 2 heads are better than 1. Ghoul Patrol tests that theory in an original LucasArts creation. One of a handful of game packs that allow 2-player cooperative play. Gamers play ghoul-busting teenagers on a spooky mission. There are literally hundreds of rooms in this extensive Super Nintendo title. A wild, weird, and perfectly wholesome storyline. And power-ups galore. You must save the people of the metropolis from the hypnotic power of the ghost. It's an expansive universe, including a Ming garden, a Caribbean town, a medieval setting, and a ghosts and demons realm. Starring two of the coolest ghoul-tracking teenagers around against some pretty terrifying bosses. Just in time for a Halloween debut.
A movie about Zombies Ate My Neighbors? Definitely a possibility, maybe just at one time. But as of 2011, a film based on the game was in development. The film was being penned and produced by screenwriter and director John Darko, who's known for his work on Insidious. At the time of the report, the film was in the process of securing rights from LucasArts and obtaining a director as well as financing. I couldn't find much more information than that, so the project might be dead in the water, but we could always still hope. Released at a time when horror was hot and there were very little horror-style games, kids at the time went wild for Zombies Ate My Neighbors and still hold the game in high regard. Although not an immediate success, Zombies Ate My Neighbors became a cult classic years after its release. Reviewers of the game often cite its humor, two-player mode, graphics, and music as some of its best aspects. They also make note of the little details that make it so cool to play, such as if you come across a door which you don't have a key for, you can blow it open with a bazooka. The game's colorful and detailed graphics have been praised as well as its soundtrack, which has been called, quote, an homage to the spooky, over-the-top music found in old scary flicks, end quote. And upon re-release, it received immense praise and earned an Editor's Choice Award from IGN. The game has been regarded as one of the most requested additions to the Virtual Console system, even before the Wii launch. One of the many gamers' favorite games, including myself, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a blast to play, both single-player and cooperatively. If you haven't checked it out, it's a must-play. Have you played Zombies Ate My Neighbors, or do you plan to? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember, in this universe, we keep it retro.